going to turn back to our reading from Joshua chapter 1. If you can't find it, it's the first chapter of Joshua, so it should be quite easy to spot. And we're looking at what this means for under new management. Now, Joshua was chosen, and the name given to him by Moses was Joshua. Now, as a reminder, Hoshea, his original name, means he saves, which would have been fine since he was about to take over from Moses and lead them finally into the promised land. Yet there is a significance in the name change, as Joshua means Yahweh is salvation. God saves. And we read this in Numbers 13, verse 16. This is a reminder that God is with them throughout the long journey, that God saved them from Egypt, but more importantly, God is continually present with them as they complete this exodus. So having Yahweh saves, or Joshua, leading his people in this chapter has so much power behind it. God does not forego his promises, and the name Joshua is also a translation for the name Jesus, again reiterating the fact that God, or Yahweh, saves. And in Jesus' case, this wasn't just for the chosen, but for all who choose to follow and accept him in their lives. So, what's in a name? Well, a reminder to the Israelites of God's promise to trust his next step. Consider this. When people think of you, your Christian life, does that reflect God in the way that you act? Like Joshua, who could have been given a task to complete in his own strength, Hoshea, he saves. His name, Joshua, suggests a higher power is at work, a reason behind the task. Do we maybe need to be more in tune with how we act and recognise as Christians we need to act differently to the way the world expects us to? So where are we in the story of Israel, the people? Well, a few chapters before, we can read a census is taken, recording all the families and tribes. And then a few pages on from that, you've got the spies getting the lay of the land, where to head to and what to expect. And today is the day. Today is the new chapter. A change of leadership is happening and there's no going back. Now, up to this point, Moses has been the focus of leadership amongst the Israelites. And after a bit of a rocky start in Egypt, and then some redemption when funneling them through the Red Sea, Moses was the go-to man. He brought down the Ten Commandments, and then he brought them down again because they didn't listen to them the first time and disobeyed. And then he led them through the desert in search of promised land. However, Moses was never to reach the promised land. This was because even after all of this provision from God, Moses chose to believe the 10 spies and retreat from the challenge ahead in Numbers 13. Only Joshua and Caleb, 2 of the spies, chose to speak up and demand that they take possession of the land. But unfortunately, they did not listen to them, which resulted in a bit more wandering around in the desert. And therefore, when the time came, there was only one man for the job, Moses' assistant, Joshua, ready to take the lead. And in Joshua 1, this is the moment, the preparation for the crossing, which is to follow in the next few chapters. And the first line says this: "The Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun," Moses' assistant, "Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the river Jordan into the land I am about to give them, the Israelites." The next few verses continue these instructions from God with details about the plan and the location, the attitude by which to go, which is be strong and courageous, and the important laws that they must keep. Keep the book of the law on your lips is one of them. God was instructing Joshua to lead his people to what he had promised them. So imagine being Joshua in this situation. Can you imagine it? The pressure. Your mentor, your leader has just died, and now you're in charge of over 2 million people, and you're making your debut. That's quite a weighty responsibility. People are looking to you for guidance, emphasising how your change in leadership is going to be. Does it sound familiar? I mean, maybe we've not got 2 million people here this morning, but it can be tricky, especially for the leader. The Israelites, since leaving Egypt, have been told of the promised land and have been following Moses ever since. And now they have a new leader, and they're leading into a time of unknowns. And I can only imagine the impact this would have had on morale and faith within the 2 million people. And I feel as a corps officer I can really relate to Joshua. We were in a change of leadership, obviously, here at this corps, in a place we'd never been to before. You all know each other, so you've all got each other's backs. We're coming into that. A place where we'd never seen, we'd never been amongst you, and we did not get to know you. And though some of us may have felt that we've been on the journey in the wilderness, we are worried of the road ahead. We look to our leaders, we look to those in leadership within the corps. However, God's timing is perfect, isn't it? God's timing is perfect. God knew it would not be Moses in the end that would fulfill this 40-year journey. God knew he needed a new leader, like Joshua, who would direct those around him in the name of God and obey God's instructions. And sometimes a change in leadership is what is required. Sometimes it's recognised that a fresh pair of eyes and a faithful heart and obedience to God are the next steps. And Joshua was the next step for Israel. But what does this have to do with us? And throughout this first chapter we see the same line repeated. Be strong and courageous. You probably have things in your home that have this phrase on. Be strong and courageous. This strength comes from God. Our courage comes from our faith in him. And just like Joshua reminding his community that it's not going to be easy, this is the plan ahead. This is what we're going with. This is what we've been told. But God is with us. So be strong. Be courageous. That's all God is requiring of us. God kept his covenant with his people. He was preparing them for the land he had promised them. And being obedient to God throughout is what stands out for me in Joshua's attitude. Straight out of the gate, he is instructing God's people to do what is expected, to remember God, to be obedient to his commands, to prepare themselves for the next stage. And being a leader has its burdens, and I can imagine for Joshua that this was more than most. However, even in his name change, we see that it is not just him he saves, it is not just his strength and his courage, but it comes from God. Joshua, Yahweh is salvation. Joshua should give us the example by which we need to lead our lives. We must first listen to God. We must communicate well with each other, trust one another, and support each other as we head out to where God needs us to be. We need to be strong and courageous as Christians. And the way ahead is going to be hard. And we're going to face opposition. I'm sorry if you didn't know that before, but you will face that. But like Joshua was to the Israelites, we have a leader who sacrificed everything for us, Jesus. And he will never fail us. And once more, he continues to support us wherever we are and whatever we face. A change in leadership was required for such a time as this. And I'm sure you can count many times in your life where you have seen leaders in positions, maybe where you work, maybe at school, globally, politically, locally, where they needed to change for a reason. Joshua is no different. This passage this morning should challenge us, should encourage us, but more importantly, remind us that it is God who saves, and we are to be the example of this in our world today. So as we reflect on how we are going to respond to God's message, we're going to share in a simple chorus. God uses everyday people to do extraordinary things. Are you ready to do extraordinary things? Consider what he may be asking of you today and your response. We're going to sing chorus. It's in the songbook, Song 572, twice through. As we reflect on our response to our leaders, and that's not just me, that's leaders in your core, in your groups, it's leaders in your community as well. But just praying for them and praying for what you will do under the leadership of our fantastic and never failing God. We're going to sing 572, At thy feet I bow adoring, bending lower, lower still, giving up my all to follow. That's giving up everything that keeps us away from God, just to do my master's will. We'll sing this twice a week.